Greetings. Today we'll be going over the Atlantis, and that Egyptian civilization was born in America and carried by a migratory race across the mystic Atlantis. This article demonstrates the hieratic alphabet in the Americas compared to Egyptian, and it shows that it's exactly the same. It also references Plutarch, who indicates the place where Atlantis is submerged is 5 days from England towards the setting sun. This manuscript is 1922. Scientists' deductions as to how old is the world and where was the Garden of Eden. J.H. Thorpe says it would be instructive to know that Egyptian civilization was born in America and carried by a migratory race across the mystic Atlantis, where some centuries later the descendants perfected culture. He quotes, "The Egyptians themselves looked upon the land of the West as being the motherland of their gods and their ancestors, and the fountainhead from which they had originally derived their knowledge. Modern science agrees that Europe and North America were once united. I repeat, modern scientists agree that Europe and North America were once united, and this is based on positive facts, proof of which would take too long to enumerate. Ethnographical and archaeological scholars accept the hypothesis that migrations took place from the Old World through the Bering Straits as well as through Atlantis. The country of the hills of mud, the land of Mu, M-U, was sacrificed, being twice upheaved. It suddenly disappeared, curing the night. The basin, being continually shaken by volcanic forces, being confined. This caused the land to sink and to rise several times and in various places. At last the surface gave way, and 10 countries were torn asunder and scattered, unable to withstand the force of the convulsions. They sank with the 64 million of inhabitants 8,060 years before the writing of this book. According to the author of the Torona, MS Atlantis, situated in the midst of the Atlantic Ocean, had 4 million inhabitants and was destroyed 8,060 years before the writing of this manuscript. Now, according to Plato, we conclude that Atlantis was engulfed 11,500 years ago. Consequently, the Troana MS ought to be about 3,500 years old. What is most important, thanks to the Torana MS, is to the translator. We have more information in regard to the lost Atlantis and of greater antiquity than any other teaching given by the Greeks. The first who wrote of Atlantis was a Phoenician historian, Sanchunia, then who, according to Bali, wrote his history about 4,000 years ago. In approximate chronological order, Sanchunia 4,000 years ago, Turano 3,500 years ago, Homer 3,000 years ago, Salam 2,500 years ago, Euripides 2,350 years ago, Plato 2,340 years ago, Diodorus 1,960 years ago, Plutarch 1,317 years ago. According to the three and other Greek writers, Atlantis was submerged in the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlanteans were regarded by them as the ancestors of the Egyptians and the Phoenicians. Plutarch goes even further than the other historians and indicates the place where Atlantis is submerged in the ocean. He tells us that it is 5 days from England towards the setting sun. The Atlanteans, according to the Egyptian priest, 8,600 BC, were the masters of Europe. And who was known to go in Europe? The Moors. So far as the Tyrrhenian Sea, and of Africa so far as Egypt, Bali says. The people of Atlantis preceded the Phoenicians and Egyptians, and the fathers of all nations, the giver of life, the originators of institutions, customs, and history, and that's what the Moors brought. Bali's conclusion is based on a profound study of Diodorus of Sicily and of others, always accepting the Troana MS. Now, why can we not say with equal plausibility those of America were not the ancestors of other nations? For their ancestors were the Atlanteans, left traces of their own sojourn on Earth and of comparatively modern data, while the Atlanteans were engulfed in the ocean as the descendants of Neptune, for historians say the brother of Jupiter was the first king of Atlantis. Photographs of Dr. J. Walter Fuchs of the Bureau of American Ethnology on his explorations of the famous Mesa Verde. He has done more in bringing the light to America's forgotten past than any contemporary. Below, the ancient Maya and Egyptian hieratic alphabets are compared. Found Sun Temple. Principal among the ruins of Mesa Verde National Park is the building excavated by Dr. Fuchs in the summer of 1915, now known as Sun Temple, which possibly may be the older of the group, as certain peculiarities suggest. With reference to this building, Dr. Fuchs says, "When I began work on the mound," and Moors are known as the mound builders, where I believe covered an ancient Pueblo quote-unquote ruin. Now, the quote-unquote Pueblos are documented as speaking about Tahuti or Thoth in the annex near the summit, which is 11 feet 3 inches high. There grew a red cedar of great antiquity, alive and vigorous at the time. Its roots penetrated into the adjacent rooms and were necessarily cut off. Now, I must add, what goes with this as far as the mound builders and the land of Mu and the Atlanteans, the Phoenicians, and them speaking about Egyptian or Egyptian priest. Noble Drali was an Egyptian adept, and he spoke specifically of a great earthquake that split the land in two. He speaks about the Atlantis islands in South America, and among all kinds of other things. I hope that you enjoyed the demonstration. I leave you in love and peace.